Good afternoon everyone, welcome back to the Nature Patch. My name is Robyn and thank you so much for joining in on another video. Today I wanted to do a really quick and easy video showing you one easy way to catch worms in your garden. So worms, including earthworms and your red wiggler worms, are indicative of a healthy soil ecosystem. So they're definitely something that isn't a gross or icky thing to see. In fact, I am probably a little bit too excited when I see worms in the garden. There are different ways to increase your worm population in the garden. Firstly, you can have a separate worm farm, which I have, where I feed my worms food scraps and it's a totally self-contained bin, and I can also scoop in some worms out of there and put them into garden beds where I want the soil to break down a little bit further, or where I just want some more nutrients to occur in the bed. Worms are pretty inexpensive to buy, but you can also try and find them and source them for free. So you only need a few worms to start your worm population, and one way that you can catch them is going to a friend's place or a place where you know has healthy soil and you're not technically stealing from a place like a botanical garden. Probably wouldn't recommend doing that. There are abundant ways to catch worms in your environment, and one way that I like to do that is through old pots that I have lying around, food scraps and any other kind of dead leaves that I have hanging around the place, to make myself a moving compost that I can move around to different beds. So I'm going to go show you one that I have right now. It's just a single pot, a little bit bigger than this, that you can just simply place on the surface and we can catch some worms like that. But first off, I'm gonna have a snack because this is directly related to what we're doing. Okay, now we can go. So this pot here is one example of when I talk about having a moving compost system. In this pot here is a bunch of food scraps, dead leaves that I have around the place, leaves that kind of look a bit buggy or a little bit sick. I just simply pop into there, water it down, and then let it kind of decompose over time, and it creates pretty much a black gold compost. So basically what we're doing in here when we're putting in food scraps is we are providing food for the worms. So they will gradually come up and back down from this bed into here to feed, and then once they're done they will disperse through the bed, go wherever they want, come back when they want some more food, and vice versa. Watering this will also provide really great nutrients for any plants that you have around it. The main benefit that I wanted to talk about in this video is actually catching the worms. So let's see what's under here now. So as soon as I moved this apart, I could start to see some worms up the top. I haven't fed this system in a while, but I can start to see some worms here, and there's a few more in there as well. And if you want to catch these worms, all you need to do is simply just scrape off this top layer here, put it into a pot, and then take it to wherever you want it to be. You can see all the moisture retention in this system here, and all of this black gold is part worm casting as well, that is broken down over time. So then once you've got your worms, you can pretty much take them to wherever you want. I would probably suggest when you're moving worms like this, there's probably about 4 or 5, maybe some eggs in there as well. When you are moving worms like this, I would just simply dig a hole like this, and then pop them back in and then cover them up. That will just save a lot of stress for the worms, as well as preventing any birds flying by and pecking at them. You want your worms to be nice and safe and back in your soil system wherever you're moving it to. So you can really feed whatever you have available in your kitchen, whether it's food scraps or leftovers. The only thing you want to make sure, because this is an open system, you want to make sure that you're not going to be attracting rats or mice or any other predators. One way to get around that is to just cover this with a layer of mulch, like sugarcane mulch, or if you've got some coffee grounds available, you can just sprinkle a layer of that on top, and generally that masks the smell of the decomposing matter that's below it, and it also provides a great food source for the worms as well. Coffee is something that I always use in these kind of worm tower worm systems, just because it doesn't smell, it breaks down really quickly, and the worms seem to really like it. And another thing you just want to keep in mind, to just give the system a water every now and again. Like everything, worms need water to survive, so you want to make sure that you're not drenching the system, but also not keeping it too dry, or else your worms won't move through the system and you won't be able to catch any. And lastly, I probably wouldn't recommend catching worms really regularly for these systems. You want to leave it, give it a week or so in between catching those worms and moving them to a different system. You can use these worms in other garden beds. I like to move mine around a little bit bit here. I also like to add them to my compost bin, any potting mix that is really kind of dead from the shop. I find there's just not a lot of microbial activity in those bagged soil, so I like to add a handful of worms into that. Or you can simply use it to replenish your worm farm if you're in a really cold or hot place and your worms seem to die over those kind of really extreme weather periods. This is a great way to find some worms in the garden, pop them back in your system and get your system going again. So I hope you enjoyed this video on my little over the ground compost systems and how to catch some worms and move them around a little bit. I love learning about soil and everything that's happening in it. I find it so fascinating, and healthy soil is by far the key to getting healthy vegetables and healthy plants, which you want to be feeding your family and yourself. So thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you try this out or if you have other ways of catching worms. I would love to know in the comments down below. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are in the world, and until my next video, happy gardening guys. Bye!